This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. That's 98.7 FM in New York City. That's 710 ESPN in L.A. And, of course, nationwide over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. Sirius XM style, Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Got a jam-packed show coming your way today. Lots of stuff to touch on, but periodically we'll touch on that. We all know what the lead story is today. We all know that it's not the kind of subject that's going to make people too comfortable. We all understand that. We don't run from anything here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. We ain't done it before. We damn sure ain't about to start right now. We know what time it is. And it's what the great Ray Lewis, the future Hall of Famer, the two-time Super Bowl champion, former Super Bowl MVP. We're talking about that Ray Lewis of the Baltimore Ravens having some words of counsel to give to Colin Kaepernick. Why? Because Steve Bisciotti, the owner for the Baltimore Ravens, along with Coach John Harbaugh, along with GM Ozzie Newsome, collectively were considering making Colin Kaepernick a part of the Baltimore Ravens. According to reports that came out just a couple of hours ago, John Harbaugh and Ozzie Newsome want Colin Kaepernick on the team. Steve Bisciotti, the owner, is giving pushback. We can debate the reasons why. We can talk about the reasons why, which we will. But they reached out to Ray Lewis for counsel. They reached out for Ray Lewis to give Colin Kaepernick counsel. And Ray Lewis had this to say via social media, video-wise, to Colin Kaepernick. Listen to this.
The football field is our sanctuary. If you do nothing else, young man, get back on the football field and let your play speak for itself. And what you do off the field, don't let too many people know, because they're going to judge you anyway, no matter what you do, no matter if it's good or bad.
That was Ray Lewis. Now, initially, when I heard what Ray Lewis had to say, I laughed. I laughed because I said, who the hell is he, of all people, to talk about how somebody just needs to be quiet and play football? I mean, Ray Lewis doesn't have conversations. He gives sermons, okay? So it was kind of comical to me to hear him talking about how somebody needed to be quiet. But that's my man. Ray Lewis and I go back a few years. I know him well. So I picked up the phone and I called them this morning. We spoke about 3 hours ago. And when we spoke, here was Ray Lewis's message. He says, Stephen A., he has to get back on the field to play. When I had my troubles, ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, he's alluding to when he pled guilty to the obstruction of justice charge in that killing in Atlanta back at the turn of the millennium. He was like, listen, it got to a point where I couldn't do any more talking. I couldn't speak of my innocence. I couldn't speak about how I felt I didn't do anything wrong. He said that wasn't going to get it done. Nobody was going to hear that message. He said, I pled what I pled to, and ultimately what it came down to is I had to get back out on that field and ball. And I let Ozzie Newsome speak for me. And Brian Billick speak for me. And others speak for me. And I let my play do my talking for me. He said, because in the end, that's my platform. As long as I'm on the field performing, they can't shut me up. Because my mere performance is going to be the embodiment of what I represent. And if it was that way for me, Stephen A., how is it going to be for Colin Kaepernick? If he gets out on that field, and he performs at an elite level, reminded us all of that dude that almost beat us in the Super Bowl. Aren't we going to remember his protest even more loudly? Isn't it going to be more vivid in the mind's eye? And I have to admit, when Ray Lewis made that point, it was hard to argue. Because as we sit here today, let's call this what it is. I have stated on numerous occasions in the last several weeks, Colin Kaepernick's being blackballed. And it's not the kind of black ball where owners are colluding with one another and conspiring to keep him out of the league. That's not what I mean. I am alluding to owners care more about their bottom line than anything else, all of us knowing it, and them without any probing or without any provocation whatsoever, rather, saying, look, this is going to compromise my bottom line. Where it gets even more interesting, more polarizing, yet potentially very beneficial, however, is in the city of Baltimore. Yes, you have the Ray Rice fiasco. But if you had a bunch of women outside the stadium in Baltimore supporting Ray Rice, after a video showed his domestic violence and some would argue assault against his then fiance, now wife, imagine how many people you'd have coming in the support of Colin Kaepernick. However, it is Baltimore. And we're talking about the city where Freddie Gray tragedy took place. Police brutality was protested. Riots took place in the streets. And if you're Bashotti, do you want that in Baltimore? That's a legitimate question. That can't be ignored. And even though as a black man, like most black people would feel, hey, bring him on board. We understand. We get it. But damn it, he means that much. And his cause, that cause of Colin Kaepernick, was not wrong. Even though you have a vast majority of black folks who feel that way, you have white folks who think otherwise. Who, despite vehement denials to the contrary, firmly believe this man, Colin Kaepernick, insulted our military servicemen and women, which I will emphatically state he did not do. He protested by kneeling for the national anthem and refusing to stand because he, Colin Kaepernick, wanted to bring attention to racial injustices and police brutality and things of that sort, similar to what Black Lives Matter was doing. And that's all he was doing. Here's the problem. The people that feel that way about Colin Kaepernick and will decry that position are not individuals who are billionaires who get to cut the check for him. They don't own the Baltimore Ravens or any other franchise. And now Bashotti is in an incredibly bad position because he has to take a side. Either he sides with Colin Kaepernick or he sides with those outside of the black community who want no parts of Colin Kaepernick. John Harbaugh opened his mouth by talking about Colin Kaepernick in a very positive fashion, considering the fact that his brother used to coach Colin Kaepernick in San Francisco. It's understandable. Ozzie Newsome has done the same, but their checks get cut by Bashotti as well. But the people in Baltimore is where the support Bashotti needs lies. If you're Bashotti, what do you do? I didn't ask you if you were yourself. I said if you're Steve Bashotti, the owner for the Baltimore Ravens, what do you do? That's my question that I want answered. I'll have an answer for you. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, 866-729-ESPN is always the number to call up. That's 866-729-3776. By the way, I know there's someone out there who had a bad night's sleep. You know why I know this? Because I used to be just like you. That's why. I deprived myself of proper rest because of my chronic snoring. But that was before the revolutionary device called Zeeper came into my life. Listen to me and listen to me good, y'all. Zeeper's a game changer. I'm going to break it down for you. If you get good sleep, you feel better. If you feel better, you've got better energy. If you got better energy, you don't walk around feeling blah and tired and exhausted, dragging through the days. And you know why? That's because you got good sleep. That's why. And Zeeper's the answer to great sleep. I'm going to say it again. Zeeper is the only snoring solution of its kind. And if you or someone you know snores, you need to get a Zeeper. So I want you to go to Zepa.com right now. Zepa is pronounced Z-Pa. It's spelled Z-Y-P-P-A-H. It's easy to remember because Zepa is Happy Z spelled backwards. So go to Zepa.com right now. Get a Zepa, please. Tell everybody you know to get a Zepa. Remember, it's Zepa. That's Z-Y-P-P-A-H. Zepa. Go to Zepa.com and get the great sleep you need and the great sleep you deserve. This subject is so interesting. I'm telling you right now, if it's me, I roll the dice, I take my chances. You know why? Because it's the NFL. And don't tell me those fans ain't going to come to the stadium 8 times a year to watch this team perform. Don't tell me that. They might not be happy about everything, but they're going to come and support this team. They're not going to not support me because I got Colin Kaepernick. And those are the naysayers. And think of the folks that will stand up and support me if I'm Steve Bisciotti. It's something worth thinking about. That's what I say. If I was Steve Bisciotti, I'd have Colin Kaepernick on my team. What about you? 866-729-ESPN. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Thing I'm going to say about it before I go to the calls. And remember, we'll get into some other stuff as well. Carmelo Anthony, the Banana Boat reunion. Carmelo Anthony, LeBron, Chris Paul, CP3, D. Wade. Will they ever unite and play on the same team together? Interesting article on ESPN.com. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. Get into some news involving the Cowboys and their questionable history, per se. All them players getting suspended, and the list goes on and on. Plus, we'll touch on Cam and Andrew Luck and some other NFL stuff. But Kaepernick is also on my mind for this reason, too. So you see, at the end of the day, prejudice is a real, real big thing. And it's not just about racism. Think about it this way, ladies and gentlemen. You ever heard of that guy, Joe Arpaio? The Arizona lawman, the self-proclaimed America's toughest sheriff? Well, not self-proclaimed, but they were calling him America's toughest sheriff. Well, ladies and gentlemen, he was largely praised by a lot of conservatives for his hard-line policing tactics. Guess what else? He was found guilty Monday of criminal contempt. U.S. District Judge Susan Bolton found Arpaio guilty for defying a judge's 2011 court order to refrain from racially profiling Latinos during patrols and turning them over to federal immigration authorities. It says here, during the trial, which took place in a federal court in Phoenix, Arizona, prosecutors argued that Arpaio intentionally violated the court order, which demanded that officers stop detaining people simply on the suspicion that they were in the country illegally, a practice that led to the detention of some Latinos who were actually citizens or legal residents. See, when Colin Kaepernick was talking about stuff, he wasn't just talking about black people. He was talking about all minorities who were being prejudiced against by law enforcement officials and beyond. That Joe Arpaio article that I just read to you, former sheriff of Arizona, that's very relevant to the Colin Kaepernick situation. He wasn't just talking about Black Lives Matter. He wasn't just talking about police brutality against blacks. He wasn't just talking about prejudice and unfairness and inequities sifting through our society like a virus. He was also alluding to what Joe Arpaio was just found guilty of. Criminal contempt. Profiling Latinos. This stuff is serious. Keep that in mind. To the phones we go. 866-729-ESPN. Let's go to Ed. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Ed. How are you?
Hey, Stephen, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thank you for calling. What's up?
Stephen, I got a major problem with you, man. I think it's being hypocritical on your part. You played into it by...
Hold on. Back up from the microphone so we can hear you clearly. Go ahead.
All right. You played into the negative that people were viewing Colin Kaepernick as. When he didn't vote, you call him a hypocritical on your show. You lambasted him for an hour or two. Now you have the nerve to come out and say, okay, I support Colin Kaepernick, when you send so much negative stuff over the airwaves.
Oh, you didn't hear me yesterday? I still said it. I'm telling you right now. He was a hypocrite. He was a hypocrite when it came to the issue of voting. Are you denying that? Steve, are you denying that?
I disagree with your opinion of it.
Hold it. You're saying that he didn't come across as hypocritical when he refused to vote and announced
Yes,
it to the
I'm
world?
saying No, I agree. He did not come across as hypocritical, Steve.
He did it? Okay.
No.
Well, no.
Okay.
That's fair. That's consistent with your opinion. So you don't believe he was a hypocrite, right?
No.
Okay, go ahead. That's
Okay,
fair.
now,
That's fair. Go ahead.
Let me finish. Now, you put all that negative spew on the air for weeks. Now, all of a sudden, you fill all the white folks' ear with, oh, man, he's hypocritical. Now let's find another. So now you're going to turn around and say, well, now all that negative stuff I said about him, bring him back in. So what difference is what you brought out about him and what other people doing? It's all negative information.
Can I respond?
Keeping him out of the league.
May I
Yes.
respond? May I respond?
Yes.
I still think he's a hypocrite for announcing to the world that he doesn't vote. I believe that the number one instrument for change in this country is exercising the power to vote. That's where, let me finish. That's where I said he's a hypocrite. Me feeling that he's a hypocrite for the sole express purpose of not voting, which is what I have religiously said for months, has nothing to do with him not being able to get a job in the NFL. There's plenty of hypocrites that have a job in the NFL. So that doesn't derail him from getting a job.
Okay.
That doesn't derail him from getting a job.
Okay. But you putting all that negative out about it. If you was the owner, let me ask you, if you was Steve Ricciardi and all that stuff you said, would you bring him in?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. Because him being a hypocrite by taking a stance that he took and not voting has nothing to do with his ability to play football.
But, Steve, but the point I'm making to you is if that was where we were, why are you on the hypocrite side? Why don't you just keep it on football?
Because we were talking about the incident of Colin Kaepernick and what he did. The fact that I'm labeling him as a hypocrite for announcing to the world that he is not voting is not justification to keep him out of the NFL.
But, Steve, what I'm saying, man, is all that negative energy you put out, because of that, we're talking about his job. You put all that negative thing out because that was his opinion and what he did. I didn't think that it required the level that you went to with it.
Well, I disagree with you. I host a radio show. I host a television show. I get paid to tell you what I believe. I told you what I believe. Saying now because it's your job to do what you did, but now you're going to – that's why I say it's hypocritical on your part. Now you don't revert back to your job. No. It has to be one or the other. Either you're going to be with it or you're going to be hypocritical because it's your radio show. Ed, you're about to hear a dial tone. Don't misquote me on my own damn show. I said he's a hypocrite for not voting. I still stand by that. That does not mean he does not deserve a job in the NFL. And on top of all of that, you're sitting there and essentially saying to me that doing my job, well, listen, my job is to express what I feel, not to take a certain position. I didn't say that's my job to take a certain position. My job is to tell you what I believe and what I feel. It's not my job to be ultra sensitive to the plight of Colin Kaepernick. I'm telling you where I stand. I'm telling you what I believe. I'm telling you why. I don't that just because I can sit here and tell you that he deserves a job in the NFL doesn't change my position about what I felt. I still feel that way, and I still believe he deserves a job in the NFL. I just believe that he's hypocritical when he brought up the issue of not voting. Period.
Radio show for that there, but would you give me an opportunity to say all that bloviating you did for weeks on the radio, on the TV, didn't help his position?
I'm not here to help him or hurt him.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. You're a hypocrite. Quit the act of standing up like you're going to, this is so wrong what they're doing.
It is wrong.
When you really don't care.
It is, but it's wrong. So, hold it. You care about everything you have an opinion on? If you believe that the man is wrong, just saying that means you care? I'm not losing any sleep over Colin Kaepernick. I'm just saying it's wrong. I'm telling you as a fact. It's wrong. Because the man can play football. You got scrubs that are being put on teams ahead of him. He doesn't deserve to be out of the NFL for this issue. But that doesn't take away from the fact that he's a hypocrite. You are an intelligent man, Ed. How can you not comprehend that?
I can't comprehend because I can't call somebody a hypocrite in one breath and in the very next tone say he should do this.
Well,
and
that's
he should
why
do
you ain't hosting a damn radio show. I am. Because I can do that. I can call him a hypocrite and still say he deserves to have a job in the NFL, despite the fact that he is a hypocrite. If you can't understand that, then intellectualize yourself just a little bit better. I got to go to break. 866-729-ESPN is the number to call up. Adrian Wojnarowski, NBA insider extraordinaire. He's up next with yours truly, right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. I'll deal with the ignorance of the Eds of the world once I finish with the conversation that I'm about to have. It is very, very rare in my day and in my career where I feel the need to defer to an NBA insider. But this is one of those times. The very best in the business in this moment in time did an outstanding job for many, many years over at Yahoo Sports, then later on with the Vertical at Yahoo, and now he is a family member here at ESPN, already doing an outstanding job as he always has done for many, many years. My colleague, my buddy, the one and only Adrian Wojnarowski, live on the line with yours truly on the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. Big time, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Stephen, I'm great. Thanks for having me on. It's good to be here.
Thank you, buddy. Let's get right into it. A little over an hour ago, we saw news circulating about Carmelo Anthony and being resigned to the fact that, he doesn't know where he's going to end up, whether staying in New York, departing from elsewhere, whatever. What can you tell us about what you're hearing in terms of where he'll end up, in terms of where he'll want to end up, and what are the New York Knicks doing to keep him on board, or are they willing to let him go?
Well, Stephen, I mean, he wants to be in Houston, and he's been pretty consistent with that here for the last several weeks, really couple months. Certainly since the Chris Paul trade. That changed, as you know, that changed everything. That opened the door for Houston to have Chris Paul, James Harden there, and that's where his focus turned immediately. And they were, when Phil Jackson still ran the Knicks, they were in talks. They had gotten down the road on a multi-team deal. But that fell apart, and really since Scott Perry's come in as GM of the Knicks, he basically hit the reset button along with Steve Mills on these talks. And right now, listen, the Knicks would like to engage Carmelo. They've tried to engage Carmelo on where his mindset would be in staying with this team, coming back, because there is no deal out there that makes sense for them. They don't want to take a lot of money on going forward. They don't want Ryan Anderson's contract coming back from Houston. So right now there's time between here and training camp. I don't think the Knicks are afraid to bring Carmelo back to camp. He, as you know, he doesn't have – listen, he can control obviously where he goes with the no trade, but if the Knicks want to bring him back, then they will bring him back to start the season, start training camp. And, they have not really been engaged here with Houston in the last couple weeks. That may start again before camp. But I think Scott Perry's really been focused on trying to re-engage Carmelo in a conversation about maybe, trying to repair something that may be irreparable from Melo's point of view.
Adrian, is that because Scott and Steve Mills and those guys want him in New York, especially now that Phil's gone? Steve Mills saying, this is my shop now. We want you in New York. Or is that because there's really no deal out there for them to make because Ryan Anderson doesn't cut the mustard, obviously, for Carmelo Anthony? What's the biggest reason they're trying to sort of, massage things a little bit so Melo will consider staying in New York?
No, you're right, Stephen. The biggest reason is to try to create some leverage, again, because they had lost all their leverage with as much what Phil Jackson had done really to devalue him over the past year had really killed the market for him. And people felt New York just wants to dump him. Why would we give anything up for a player that they're just trying to unload? And New York won't do it. Now, so far, they haven't been willing to do a buyout. That conversation is a non-starter. And that was part of Phil's departure. Phil was ready to just do a buyout. The organization said, we're not doing that. And so, yes, they want to go younger in New York now. They've invested a lot of money. $70 million in Tim Hardaway. They've got to get back on the same page with Kristaps Porzingis. They've got to, get a conversation going with him again and make him feel a part of this and as the centerpiece of their future. So Melo doesn't fit into that, but they don't want to just give him away for nothing. But they're limited because of that no trade, and he can stay focused on Houston. Listen, I think they really want him back for camp? No, I think they prefer to find a deal, but I think Scott's comfortable with it. And they know this about Carmelo. He may not be happy about it, but he's going to come back and be professional. He's going to come back and do his job. He's not going to – it's different than Cleveland where it will be very combustible now Kyrie may come back too, but Carmelo, he'll just fit in and they can go about their business and try to work toward a deal. I don't think they're afraid to have him in camp. Not so sure about Cleveland on that front.
That's a nice transition. We're talking to Adrian Wojnarowski right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Let's get to Cleveland and Kyrie Irving. Where did things go wrong in your estimation? And is this a situation that's repairable, where LeBron and Kyrie can coexist in the Cleveland Cavaliers uniform for this upcoming season? Or do Cleveland need to trade him before the season begins?
Stephen, see, I tend to think everything's repairable in the NBA. Because history shows it is. History shows guys can play together without liking each other. They've never been close. This isn't like, listen, at times it's been better than other times, but this isn't Dwayne Wade and LeBron. It's never been that. And part of it is, I think it's generational. They're from two different generations in the league, and it's an older player and a younger player. And that you've seen through the history of the league how that's impacted relationships. Mm-hmm. I think it will be certainly harder than Carmelo, but there's more at stake in Cleveland. And LeBron does know this. Like, there's no trade. There's really almost no trade out there Cleveland can do where they can say we will be better this year because we made this trade. Everything, it's going to be a player of lesser impact than Kyrie, a guy what they want is a player who can help them now, and then a young player maybe on a rookie contract who can help them down the line. Well, whatever player is they bring back, he's not better than Kyrie Irving. And so LeBron, if he wants to win in this last year, certainly he does. Whatever his future is, they're still the best possible team in most cases here with Kyrie, because the kind of deal that Cleveland wanted or hoped was going to immediately come calling for them, like what Denver got for Carmelo, what Masai Ujiri got, that tremendous package of young players, veterans, picks, that's not available to Cleveland. At least it isn't yet. And so they may have to repair this to at least go forward. Here's the big date for Kyrie Irving if this gets into training camp in the season. December 15th is when players who sign free agent deals this summer can now be traded. Well, that opens up a whole new market of players who are eligible to be traded in a Kyrie Irving deal. So can Cleveland get to December 15th? Can they hold that thing together? They probably can.
What is Kyrie Irving's biggest annoyance factor? Is it the fact that he wants to be that number one franchise player, or is it the fact that he feels underappreciated in Cleveland?
I think it's a lot of things, Stephen, and what I've been reporting really from the beginning on this, and what I believe to be the biggest factor in this isn't so much the relationship and what I think it's this. It's Kyrie wants to get control and have a voice in his future and his career. And LeBron, everyone has to wait on LeBron here to decide what he's going to do. And if he's going to leave, what is left behind is a team that Kyrie looks around and says, this team's not constructed to be built around me. If you're going to build around Kyrie, you're going to play faster, more up-tempo. This is a team that's built to play in the half court around LeBron, to play at a much slower pace, and rightly so. You're right to build your team around LeBron. But if LeBron goes, then you have a team of, number one, of that the pieces don't fit him, and two, contracts that will be hard to trade, some big money deals on guys who the value may not be that out in the market. And I think Kyrie wants to have a voice, and I think having a voice in how they play, what they do when LeBron's not on the court, the kind of stuff they run when it's him on the court with another unit, all those things I think added up to this. But I think he knows this, that if he waits till next year to ask for a trade, or at the end of, or let's say next summer, if LeBron leaves in free agency, it is really hard for Cleveland to say we're going to lose LeBron in free agency potentially, and then now we're going to trade Kyrie Irving too. Like, we don't want to do all that in one summer. And I think he's trying to get out ahead of this. And I think the fact that LeBron, that he's not committed to staying there, and he hasn't committed, which is certainly his right. He's done these shorter deals. I think in the end, Kyrie is trying to get out ahead of this thing.
Do you think LeBron will leave Cleveland after next season?
I don't want to predict, Stephen. I think these things are so fluid. The one thing I've learned about free agency with lots of different players through the years is what a guy thinks now, and then what he thinks in January, and then like when the season ends in May or June, and then July 1, it usually changes 1,000 times on how they feel, and the trajectory of the league's changing, and where all of a sudden the team that doesn't make sense to go play for, all of a sudden you look and say, wow, if they add LeBron, now that makes sense. Things clear up. So But I think right now, I know this to be true, Cleveland is very concerned. That organization is very concerned that he may leave. And they're not behaving like a team right now that's confident he's staying, and they're not – when they do a deal for – if they do a deal for Kyrie, you're not going to see them just bring back a bunch of things that will help them in 1 year win now and then leave them strapped financially with a cap or whatever going forward. You're going to see them do something here that is, sort of has the long view in mind. And if they knew LeBron was staying, I think they would do they would be trying to do a different kind of trade right now.
It's interesting that you say that, Adrian, because that means that Carmelo Anthony has slim to no chance of ending up there, even though we both reported Houston's number one on his list, and we both reported that we're not ruling out Cleveland or somebody else. It's not like he's wiped them off his list. In the same breath, because of what you just described, Cleveland is going to require for the services of Kyrie Irving. The New York Knicks don't have that to offer.
They don't. And, short of New York's willingness to put Porzingis in a deal, which I don't believe they are, that doesn't make sense. I think if you're trading for Kyrie Irving, you want him to play with Kristaps Porzingis. You're not trading him. So, and that makes it hard to do a separate Carmelo deal. Like for if you're Cleveland, how do you go out and trade for? It's hard to go do a Carmelo deal and then say then we're going to turn around and go do a separate deal to move Kyrie. It's hard for them to really look at doing both. So I think Cleveland, there's no question Melo's focus is on Houston, but I think it becomes harder for Cleveland to do a deal for Melo if they're also trying to do a deal for Kyrie because of they need to keep assets. They may need to include – one of the things Cleveland might like to do in a deal for Kyrie is to get somebody to take one of their heavier contracts off their hands to, clean up their cap a little bit. You get someone to take a contract you don't love having. And so, that's another part of this conversation that I think Cleveland's trying to have around the league. But, I think the market, I think the appetite for Kyrie in terms of lots of teams are interested and want him, but I think Cleveland's a little surprised that they're not getting, that this didn't turn into a bidding war like really quickly. That market didn't develop yet. It hasn't developed yet.
Very last question to you, Adrian. It seems like the momentum is leaning towards both Kyrie and Carmelo being with their respective teams once camp opens at the very least, and that it's very unlikely that anything will happen until after December 15th. Am I wrong in surmising that?
I think it's become a possibility for both, but Stephen, like this can change in a moment with one phone call from one team. And I think New York's trying to slow this thing down again and say, hey, we're willing. There's a game of chicken going on. Both teams are trying to make everybody else in the league think, hey, we're fine with keeping this guy. We're fine with going to camp. And, so maybe somebody steps up and tries to preempt that from happening, or maybe teams go ahead. Like we're going to hang in there. There's a couple teams with Kyrie who think that they have offers that they could get something done without giving up, an elite young player or whatever. And so they're going to sort of do this dance with Cleveland, but it just takes one owner to say, hey, forget it. Let's go get Kyrie. I woke up this morning and decided I want to do it. That does happen a lot, but you're right. I think it is conceivable. Both guys show up for opening day of training camp and there's no deal done yet.
The man, Adrian Wojnarowski, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Appreciate the great work as always, buddy. Looking forward to talking to you down the line.
Stephen, great to be on with you. Talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. The one and only Adrian Wojnarowski for ESPN. No longer at Yahoo. He's on ESPN. Right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio, 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. More of your phone calls. In a minute, I'll get back to Ed and his comments about hypocrisy. I'm looking forward to touching on that subject as it pertains to Colin Kaepernick. I ain't going anywhere. Looking forward to that. More Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Thank goodness. Sterling Shepard for the New York Giants apparently has suffered just a low ankle sprain. Initially, it was believed that something more serious may have happened. He may have been out, but he suffered a low ankle sprain, so Giants escaped some stuff there. Will Fuller for the Houston Texans. Broken collarbone, it appears. So he's going to be out for a while. Breaks his collarbone in practice. Not something Deshaun Watson, Bill O'Brien, the head coach, needed to hear. As it pertains to that guy, Ed, that called in, saying I'm a hypocrite, let me tell you what he's really trying to say, ladies and gentlemen. He's really trying to say that he's upset at the position that I took about Colin Kaepernick, that I stirred this negativity that was aimed in Colin Kaepernick's direction. That's what he's really saying. So who the hell am I to come out now talking about I'm in support of him? When Colin Kaepernick kneeled for the national anthem, I supported him at that moment. I supported him for weeks until he announced to the world. It wasn't even an issue of him not voting. It was him announcing to the world that he doesn't vote, thereby encouraging youngsters on the come up to not vote. That was my issue, because I think it's the number one instrument of change that we have in America. That's my personal opinion. That and money, of course. And that's my only position. But having said all of that, regardless of the fact that I thought he was hypocritical to take that position, regardless of the fact that I was negative about it because of his unwillingness to vote and to announce it to the world, that does not mean that I don't believe he doesn't deserve to be in an NFL uniform, especially when there's a bunch of scrubs getting jobs ahead of him. If someone can't understand that, they just have a problem with comprehension. It's just that simple. But I love you, Ed, and I hope you call back anytime, bro. I'll let you back on. Just because you disagree with me and get on me doesn't mean I ain't got love for you, bro. Feel free to call back anytime. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, hour number 2 with a whole bunch of NFL stuff and more up next.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Hour number 2 for the Stephen A. Smith Show, here with you until the top of the hour over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, Sirius XM Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. You know, I'm looking at the news, and they're talking about injuries to Andrew Luck, shoulder injury to Cam Newton. One of the questions I asked this morning on my show, First Take on ESPN every weekday morning with my man Max Kellerman and Molly Karam, we asked the question, who are you most concerned about? The Carolina Panthers or the Indianapolis Colts? To me, it's easily Andrew Luck. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that in Andrew Luck's career, he's been sacked 156 times? First 5 years in the league. 156 times. He's been hit over 520 times. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that was him missing 9 games for the 2015 season. I mean, listen, man, this is no joke. Thank God Grigson is gone. Nobody really liked him on the team or in the NFL. They thought he was the most arrogant you-know-what they ever dealt with. I don't know the man personally. I'm just telling you what they said. You got that issue. Gettleman is out in Carolina. I thought he deserved it. Reason I felt that way, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, was because when I looked at Gettleman, how you let go of Josh Norman with no plan B? How does that happen? How do you let go of him with no plan B, A? And B, more importantly, you sitting there alienating dudes yourself. Contract negotiations and beyond, they're talking about you and how you deal with players. It's problematic. So I look at it from that perspective. And it's just undeniable that both guys needed to go. But in the end, if you're a team, you're worried about a particular team, you need to worry about the Indianapolis Colts. Tennessee is on the rise. Houston's got Deshaun Watson. He might start week 1. You got that going on. Then you got to turn around, and something else you got to think about involves protecting Andrew Luck. This is your franchise quarterback. How do you put that man out there with that offensive line year after year after year? Now, they drafted Ryan Kelly last year. He's got a promising future at the center spot, but my God, what else do you have? I mean, if it wasn't for Seattle, I'd be talking more about the Indianapolis Colts offensive line. But then I thought about Seattle. And I'm thinking about Russell Wilson, the franchise player that he is. And I'm thinking about a defense that was ranked number 1 for 4 consecutive years until they finished 3rd last year. And I'm happy that my man Cam Chancellor got his 3-year extension. He deserves every penny. But what really resonates with me, whether it's with Mr. Snyder or Pete Carroll, how in the hell do you have Russell Wilson behind center playing as the franchise quarterback for your squad? And you got a former basketball player on the offensive line, a former tight end on the offensive line, some journeyman on the offensive line. I mean, if you're Pete Carroll and you're paying dudes peanuts, what are you thinking in Seattle? You would think you'd do everything to protect. I don't understand these guys. You got an elite player at the most important position on the field, which is quarterback. You know that the primary objective is to protect them, but you put those offensive linemen in front of them. How do you justify that? That is beyond stupid. I mean, that's something Jeff Fisher would have done. Thank God he's gone from the L.A. Rams. I mean, I can't put anything past these dudes. I just can't. But I digress. That was just what's on my mind for this particular moment in time. It is what it is. Okay? By the way, getting back to Colin Kaepernick, quote, statement from General Manager Ozzie Newsome. Quote, we are going through a process, and we have not made a decision. Steve Bisciotti, the owner, has not told us we cannot sign Colin Kaepernick, nor has he blocked the move. Whoever is making those claims is wrong. It's good to know. Reports were a couple of hours ago that Ozzie Newsome and John Harbaugh want Colin Kaepernick, and Steve Bisciotti, the owner, was blocking the move. Ozzie Newsome comes out with this statement, no doubt coming to the defense of his owner and boss who cuts his check. That doesn't mean he's not telling the truth, though. Doesn't mean he's not telling the truth. It just means that people are going to find a suspect because he's saying something that protects the owner. Because obviously if you're in the city of Baltimore and you don't want Colin Kaepernick on your squad as the owner, knowing that Ozzie Newsome and John Harbaugh want him on the squad, particularly with Joe Flacco being hurt because of his stance in regards to not standing for the national anthem and what have you, because of Colin Kaepernick's quest to bring attention to prejudices, police brutality, and the like, let's just say it's safe to say that would not ingratiate you with the Baltimore community. It's all getting very, very interesting. No question about it. 866-729-ESPN. Let's go back to the phone. Let's go to James in New Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, James?
Hello, Stephen A.
How are you?
Thanks. There's 2 points that I want to make. One is about why I feel that Colin Kaepernick will never be allowed.
Just make your point. No need to explain what you're going to say. Just say it. Go ahead.
Okay. I need some time with this. As a Black American, we go when there's injustice against us. There's certain phases of emotion and action that we go through. And in the beginning, we pray and we seek God. Then we try to reach out to pastors and motivational speakers. Then we protest. Then there's retaliation. Then there's destruction and eventually killing. What Colin Kaepernick did, and he is the first American that has finally put a cap on our as far as we can go, like a level 10, and like say if change still doesn't happen and this continues to go on for 20 more years, then there is a possibility that mothers and fathers will get to a place where they're telling their own children, look, when you go to school, we don't stand. When you perform in a sporting event, we will not stand, because America has shown us for the past 20 and 30 years that we don't matter. And because he did that, that opened up, he gave birth to something that has scared America all across the world.
All right, so how do you feel about that? You say he gave birth to it. How do you feel about it?
That he gave birth to something that the NFL...
My man, I asked you a question.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? How do you feel about the fact that he gave birth to that and it's put fear in the hearts of Americans? How do you feel about that?
I support it 100%. It needed to be done.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate the call. I got that. I got your position. Frankie in Long Beach, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Frankie?
Yo, Stephen A., what's happening, my man?
I'm all right. Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, life's treating me well, too. Buster Steve, all I'm hearing about this Kyrie Irving and the Melo deal with the Porzingis, why ain't nobody said nothing about how can they get Melo to stay there with Porzingis and Kyrie? That's a top three right there.
Stop. The reason you haven't heard anybody bring it up is because Kyrie Irving is under contract for the next 2 years with Cleveland, and there is no way in hell that the Cleveland Cavaliers would trade him to New York for a deal that doesn't include either Melo or Porzingis.
That's what the media is saying.
No. Stop. I'm telling you, the Cleveland Cavaliers organization will not trade Kyrie to New York for a deal that does not include Porzingis or Melo. That won't happen.
Well, some other teams, you got Boogie Cousins out there.
Okay, but you just asked me about, now you're changing the subject. You were talking about the big three in New York. I'm saying that can't happen.
It can't happen at all.
No. What else? Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, Frankie. Frankie, I have a question. Do you know basketball?
Very well.
All right. Name one player on the New York Knicks outside of Melo or Porzingis that you think is worthy of Kyrie Irving.
I didn't say player work, but money is. That's why you need another trade. There's nobody out there going to do a one-on-one trade right now.
No, I'm not talking about a one-on-one trade. I said any players. You can have 5 of them. Give me 5 players that's worth Kyrie Irving on the New York Knicks outside of Melo and Porzingis.
You don't have that.
That's all I'm saying.
But why would you keep a cancer in your locker room?
Bye, Frankie, bye. Have a good day. Here's why I told Frankie to go away. Just have a good day. Even if you brought another team involved in the mix, then they would want Melo or Porzingis. You're not getting Kyrie with 2 years on his contract, under contract for the Cleveland Cavaliers, to depart from Cleveland to go to New York, and New York doesn't have to give up anything. It's not happening. That's why I moved on from that conversation. Rick/Skip, my brother in D.C., he hadn't called me in a long time, ladies and gentlemen. He wasn't allowed to talk to me because he got married, and the wife restricted him from getting himself in trouble by calling me. But every now and then, he's granted a 6-month reprieve, and once every 6 months, he's allowed to call me. What's going on, big baby? How you doing, man?
What's up, man?
What's going on, bro?
I'm hanging in there, man. I'm trying to get my life back on track, And it's football season.
I know it's football season. Hold on. How's the family? How's the wife? How's all that, bro? I know she don't usually allow you to call. What's going on?
We doing good. We doing great. The business is rolling. Everything is good.
Listen. I gotta let people know. Listen. I usually don't have any love whatsoever for Cowboy fans, but I got rare exceptions, and you are one of them, my brother. So I got nothing but love for you. You a Cowboy fan? You know that's a big deal.
Yes, sir. And I love you too. And listen, I don't understand, why they don't feel how you feel about Cap though. Kaepernick, because he was never supposed to announce that he didn't vote.
Right.
I mean, he don't want to put it out there. He was never supposed to do that.
And notice and listen to what you're saying, Rick. Him not voting is bad, but that's his decision. Yes. But to announce to the world that you trying to encourage everybody to do the same.
Exactly. After you done did all this protesting about black people, black matters, and now you ain't vote. Come on, man. I lost all respect for him when he did that. So I agree with you with that.
Thank you.
But putting that publicity out there will, not give him a job. But, hey, whatever. Homeboy don't know what he's talking about. But, that's your job. What you supposed to do?
I ain't worried about Ed. I got love for Ed, though. Ed can call back anytime, man. I don't mind people disagreeing with me. You know that. You disagree with me all the time. You just mad I got the wife to turn on you.
But I'm so happy to see Jalen Smith this year, man, to go with Sean Lee on my defense. And, our defense is better. Our defense is a whole lot better. Let me tell you this. Orlando Scandrick's going to make the Pro Bowl this year. He's going to be the number one, quarterback. He's real nice. He got some speed with him. Y'all slept on him. But Cowboys is back because we're going to revamp this defense.
Rick,
the offense.
Rick, I got to tell you this. You got me on something. I got to confess to my boy Rick, man. I got to confess. You got me on something. I totally forgot that Jalen Smith was going to be ready this year.
Yeah.
I totally forgot. I'm like, oh, damn. The Cowboys might actually be better defensively. I'm very concerned right now. I'm very concerned. Right. You have to be concerned. He would have been an all-around pick if he didn't get hurt. But you ready for this?
Number one all-around pick.
But you know how I'm going to get you? You know how I'm going to get you right now, Rick?
Oh, man.
Are you ready for this? You ready for me to get you? Are you ready? Are you ready, Rick?
Come on with it.
Are you sure all of them are going to be eligible to play? Are you sure? Are you sure they're going to be eligible? Are you sure they're not going to get suspended? Are you sure they're going to be able to stay off the weed? Are you sure?
You know we love our weed in Texas. I'm going to tell you that right
now. Rick, man, it's good to hear from you, bro. Call back, man. Call back, bro. Oh, I couldn't resist it, y'all. I couldn't resist it, because we keep assuming stuff about the Cowboys' talent, but are we sure they're going to be eligible to play? When all else fails and they're ready to go, somebody will do something stupid to get themselves suspended. You can book it. It's who they are. It's who they are. More on the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Back to the phones we go. Right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Thanks again to Adrian Wojnarowski, NBA insider extraordinaire, formerly of Yahoo, now officially with ESPN, breaking stuff down about Carmelo Anthony, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, and the crew. He'll be with us throughout the year. We'll learn more and more from him each and every single day. He'll be right here with us on ESPN Radio and Back to the phones we go. At 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Let's go to my man Mike in Denver. You're live with Stephen A. What's going on, big baby? How are you?
What's going on with you, man?
Talk to me, bro.
I had two questions. First, I was the Colin Kaepernick thing. I wasn't even really interested in it, but now, man, he need to be playing, Stephen A.
I agree.
He need to be playing, man. And then, the comment on what the other guy called in about, when they said they got a report, Ozzie Newsome saying that ain't what it is. That's what it is, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's the owner that's blocking the situation.
Yeah, well, Ozzie Newsome, the general manager for the Baltimore Ravens, issued a statement proclaiming that indeed it wasn't Bisciotti at all. They're still looking into matters. Let me read the statement for our listeners, just those that didn't hear it, Mike. Ozzie Newsome, the general manager for the Baltimore Ravens, says, we are going through a process and we have not made a decision. Steve Bisciotti, the owner, has not told us we cannot sign Colin Kaepernick, nor has he blocked the move. Whoever is making those claims is wrong. That's according to Ozzie Newsome, the general manager for the Baltimore Ravens. Go ahead.
Right. Hate to say Ozzie Newsome ain't telling the truth, but, that's what it is because, y'all have been assigned the man. If y'all talking about him, ain't nobody else out there y'all can go get besides RG3, and that ain't going to happen until you just get desperate.
Be honest with you, as much as I like RG3 as a person, and I'm wishing him well, and I'm hoping he gets his career back on track, based on credentials, he doesn't deserve the backup job in Baltimore ahead of Colin Kaepernick. I can tell you that right now.
Right. And, the other thing I wanted to touch on, I don't know if you remember this conversation we had a while back with the Carmelo thing.
Yes,
remember
sir.
I asked you, I say, you think Carmelo trying to wait Phil out? And you told me, you said, nah, because they ain't going nowhere anyway. That's why he's going to send them to Cleveland. But I really believe that's what's going on with Carmelo.
Well, he wasn't waiting him out because he went to Dolan and told Dolan, he insisted that it was time for him to move on and not be a New York Knick anymore. And even once Dolan got rid of Phil Jackson, Carmelo still swore that he needed to move on. It's just that they can't. He won't waive his no trade clause unless he goes where he wants to go. And his number one choice is Houston, and Houston doesn't have enough to offer in return for his services. So the New York Knicks won't do that deal. And Carmelo wants them to still try to get a third team involved so they can find a way to get some compensation so he can end up in Houston with his boy CP3. But this would be the second time in Carmelo Anthony's career that he finds himself in that situation. He shouldn't have signed a long-term deal with Denver, but he did, and that way he couldn't go to South Beach with LeBron and join in D-Wade, and Chris Bosh had to go. And now it's happened to him again because, once again, he was interested in the money instead of his own freedom.
Exactly. Okay, then, man. Well, you know, man, good talking to you as always. Man, look at lighten up on the outfits, man. You was fly again.
Come on. Now I'm gonna be fly every day. Wait till you see. I'm gonna bring some more suits, Mike. I ain't finished. I'm just getting started, bro. I like to try and look good. I like to try and look good, bro.
Hey, man, I love you, man.
Same here, bro. Take it easy and give your brother my love. Take it easy. John in Manhattan, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen, how you feeling?
I'm doing all right. What's going on?
Nothing. I love your music. Want to talk slow jams with you one day, but I do have to think something about Colin Kaepernick.
Hold it. You said you want to talk slow jams with me?
Yes, sir.
Well, why? You don't have to get in too much detail, but why would you want to talk slow jams with me?
Didn't you say you had a show in college that they specialize in?
Tender Moments. That's what it was called. That's the truth.
Okay, well,
I'd
like to talk how much I can learn something from you.
All right, no problem. As long as you're calling and you're mentioning it because you want to be tutored and counseled, I have no problem with it because I can teach you a few things about that. But go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Okay, with Colin Kaepernick, a caller a while back said that he invented. Hasn't anybody ever heard of Mahmoud Abdul Rauf?
Yes.
So the thing is that Colin Kaepernick, he's the new version of protest. But Mahmoud did it for a whole season before anybody discovered it.
Well, the other thing, too, you have to remember that he didn't want to stand, and Commissioner Stern and them said, go in the back while the national anthem is being played.
And he would walk off the court, right?
And he'd walk off the court. That's absolutely true.
Right. Okay, now my question is with Kyrie and Carmelo. I don't think they're going to get traded before the season starts, but how is that going to play in their respective locker rooms?
It's not going to be any it's not going to be any issue with Carmelo because Carmelo's the target of his ire is primarily Phil Jackson, who's gone. In the case of Kyrie, that's about Kyrie and LeBron.
Yeah, and that can get toxic if it's really that bad.
Correct. That's your dilemma.
That's going to be interesting.
That's your dilemma. Appreciate the call, John. Thank you so much. Will, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Will? Talk to me, man. Will, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
You're live over the airwaves, buddy. Go ahead.
Just want to make a brief statement real quick, man. I've been on social media.
Wait. Stop right there. Your voice is coming across as muffled. Stay on hold. After the break, we'll come right to you. Make sure it's clear because your voice is muffled and my listeners can't understand you. So I'll be right back to you, Will. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. By the way, when it comes to our cars, one thing's almost certain. Something at some time is going to break down, and if your vehicle warranty is expired, one big repair can break your bank. There are auto protection plans out there, of course, but only one stands alone. That's Toco Warranty. With Toco, you don't pay upfront fees for service you may never use. Toco makes protecting your car easy with their pay-as-you-go plan. Just pay a small amount each month and keep the protection for as long as you like. With Toco, there is no long-term contract, no upfront fees, and you can cancel at any time. So get peace of mind knowing you are protected with coverage plans on the engine, electrical, transmission, cooling system, drive axle, and more. Plus, enjoy the benefits of roadside assistance and paid rental car fees. Toco's special concierge service guides you through the entire process from sales to claims to customer service, all under one roof. So don't risk being grounded by auto repairs you can't afford. See if you qualify for Toco at 800-211-2884. That's 800-211-2884. That's 800-211-2884. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show. Back with more of your calls in a minute on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
One of the things that folks try to say, they watch me on First Take and, they'll see Max take a position and I don't necessarily do so. Some people from the African-American community actually go as far as to say, well, he appears to be more pro-black than you are. First of all, I'm about fairness. Secondly, I'm about what's right and wrong. But thirdly and more importantly, and this is not casting any aspersions on my brother, my partner, my man Max Kellerman, My partner on First Take every weekday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern Time, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Coast Time, Pacific Standard Time. It's not casting any aspersions on him or anybody else who's white, Jewish, Catholic, Protestant. It doesn't matter. But when you're not black and you're talking about black issues, you may give your opinions and stuff, but you ain't the one that has to live with the consequences and repercussions. We do. And so when I take a position, it's not just about what's right and wrong. It's about what's smart so somebody can live another day. I don't want to give away too much information, but I watched the premiere of the movie Detroit. It's coming out. And there's a scene in there where one kid says what the cops want him to say, and another kid doesn't. And so something may have happened to that kid. Now, he could have sat up there like he did and told the truth and got himself hurt. Or he could have been like the other dude and lied to get himself out of that particular situation so he could live another day and save the truth for when it really counted, as opposed to when it would do him no good. Things have to be contextualized, and you have to take things into consideration every single day, the challenges, the trials and tribulations, the ramifications, the repercussions. And when you are an African American, it is my belief that you should play chess instead of checkers, that you take all of those things into consideration and then make a judgment call, as opposed to operating under emotion and this insatiable need just to be right and righteous in the moment, when being right and righteous may be called upon more emphatically for another time. That's just me. 866-729-ESPN. Back to the phones we go. Marty in Los Angeles, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A., thank you so much, man. How's your family?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for asking. We're all fine. Go ahead, buddy.
I got a very direct question, two questions to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I'm not just saying this to get on the radio, dog. Why don't you run for president of the United States? You can win, man. You can win, dude. You are smart.
The shaking the hands and kissing the babies and stuff like that. I'm too real and raw for all of that. And you know, I couldn't see myself doing it. I really couldn't. I've been asked, though. You're not the only one that's asked me, and believe it or not, there are politicians who have asked me to run, not for the presidency, but I've been asked to run for elected office as in a senator. I've been asked.
And if you did, who would you ask to be your VP, and why?
For the presidency of the United States of America?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I've never thought about it. I'd have to think about that long and hard, but you know what name would come to my mind?
What's that?
Michael Bloomberg.
Wow.
Do you know why?
No, why?
He's rich. He knows money. He knows business, but he's an independent politically. I don't want a Democrat. I don't want a Republican. I want somebody who's independent, who is all about doing what's to the benefit of the American people.
Amen.
That's all I care about. I don't want the partisanship.
Yeah. And you know why I ask you, man? Because just for what you said, you're not a politician. And you're factual, and you're fair. You look at both sides, and then you voice. And that connects. Whether you're black, white, Hispanic, that connects because you're a fair man. And I can imagine you debating Kid Rock, man. Woo! That would be a headliner.
I wouldn't mind, but I don't happen to believe, particularly when it comes to white folks who think differently than me, I don't happen to believe that because you think differently than I do, that makes you a racist. I know the difference between racists and those who just have different views than I do. And I think that if we understood that, you know, a lot of us, both black and white and beyond, I think the world would be a better place. Let's challenge each other on our ideas.
Amen.
As to what's best for the country.
That's why your show is great, man.
Thank you very much.
Having a conversation, not only about sports, but the world and the human condition, bro. And you're connecting with me because I listen to you every day at my lunchtime. I got 1 hour, and, man, I look forward to your show more than I do the NFL channel, bro.
Thank you, bro. I got to run, Marty, but I deeply appreciate those kind words. Thank you so much. They mean a lot to me, man. Thank you. Sincerely. I really appreciate it. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show. More of your phone calls to close out the show in a minute.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Minutes right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Your calls will not be lasting long because we got to get to a few callers before we get on out of here. So just keep that in mind. Make your points quick and succinctly, please. I deeply appreciate it. Let's go to Chris. You're live on the line with Stephen A. My brother, what's going on? Good afternoon.
Hey, how you doing, Stephen A? I just want to say I'm a diehard Raven fan. I'm disappointed in Steve Bisciotti, and I'm disappointed in Ray Lewis because Ray Lewis is saying, some good things, but not once has he said the Ravens should sign Colin Kaepernick. But yet he tweeted out something yesterday, I think, saying that his play speak for him on the field. He can't speak for anything if he's not signed to a team.
Whoa. Chris, don't be so literal with it. I spoke to Ray Lewis this morning. He's definitely in support of the Ravens signing Colin Kaepernick.
Okay, because I saw him debating with Shannon Sharpe the other day.
I hear what you're saying, but what I'm saying to you is if you want to judge him based off of that, based off of what he said and what you saw. Maybe he just failed to convey it because he was busy debating about other issues. But when I spoke to him this morning, he was in favor of Colin Kaepernick being signed.
Okay, but what Steve Bisciotti said, he's not sure if Colin Kaepernick puts us in the best position to win. If something happens to Joe Flacco, Ryan Mallett does not put us in the best position to win. It will be Colin Kaepernick. And if
hold on, stop, Chris. Let me ask you a question, playing devil's advocate. Colin Kaepernick's 11-24 in his last 35 starts. He was 1-10 last year, even though we know that was about Chip Kelly and Trent Baalke. Colin Kaepernick hasn't won in 3 years. How do you know that he's a better option?
Because I believe in John Harbaugh as a better coach than what he came from the 49ers with Chip Kelly, and the system that the locker room will actually accept him there. He had more weapons. He's a talent. There's no question he's a talent. He's an athlete. You can't teach an athlete. He's still fast. He's still young. All he needs to do is learn under Joe. What I'm saying is Joe is the man. Joe's not going out. But if he can have a couple years under Joe and come in when Joe's time's over, I think he'll be a great quarterback.
All right. I can respect that, man. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. I mean, you might have a point there. No question about that. Let's go to Will. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Will? Good afternoon.
Hey, Stephen A. Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, buddy.
Awesome, man. Hey, I just kind of want to backpack on what Chris said. 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions last year. That's pretty productive considering that his team, they had no defense, and who did he have to really throw to? Torrey Smith? I mean, it's just I think he put us in a way better position than Ryan Mallett would if something were to happen to Joe Flacco long term.
Probably right. I mean, I can't disagree with you. I just asked the question, playing the devil's advocate in terms of how you would know, since the man hasn't won in 3 years. But I can't summarily dismiss what you're saying. I can't, Will. You might have a good point.
Right. I love Colin Kaepernick. I love what he stands for. I think his heart is in the right place. The man needs a second chance. He really does.
Well, listen, I'll answer Ed again. Listen, I agree with you about Colin Kaepernick. He deserves a second chance. He deserved to be in the NFL. I still think he was a hypocrite for announcing to the world that he does not vote. But that does not mean he does not deserve a job in the NFL. The one has nothing to do with the other to me. So I get where you're coming from, and I appreciate the call, man. Thank you. Frank and Cali, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Frank?
Stephen A. all day. Can I give you my first take on Cap real quick?
Go ahead, man. That's why you're on the air. Go ahead.
All right, let's do this. So, you know what? He's applying for a privileged job. a very, very privileged job. It's not like me going out and getting a regular job at Mickey D's or anything like that. He put himself into a bad position with all these ingredients, and he's got a pie that he's not liking right now. First off, he's appealing to mostly white owners, I'm assuming, without even looking that up. Mostly
they're all white,
owners are
correct.
first generation.
They're all right, except for the guy in Jacksonville. But go ahead.
All right. So, and I'm guessing most of these are probably first generation after, we've had all these things with blacks having equal rights and all that, which came too late at the country, but whatever, it is what it is, and we're getting there. And on top of that, he's walking that thin line very badly with these pig socks that he had on, something about cop killers, or I have no idea what that was all about. And he's trying to play to both sides, but this whole voting thing, I mean, he's put himself in this position, and he shouldn't expect much more of. Just
all right, stop right there. Let me ask you a question. You talk about being in a privileged position. Real quick, I need a quick answer on this, okay? Here's my question, yes, Frank. There are guys in the NFL that, I mean, you had a guy like Greg Hardy that was convicted of domestic violence by a judge.
Yes.
You've got others accused of domestic violence. You've got, guys that have suffered through, that committed vehicular manslaughter, because they got behind the wheel of a car drunk. You've got a whole bunch of stuff. So when you talk about Colin Kaepernick, what did he really do that warrants him being out of the league?
Aha, perfect. And I'm going to put it to you as simple as I can.
Hurry up.
A lot of these older white people are very patriotic. They love their country. Football is American
Frank,
sport.
stop right there. I'm going to give you an opportunity to call me back tomorrow and give me an answer. I didn't ask you the reason. I asked you what you felt. I didn't ask you about the owners and all that stuff. I asked you what you felt. Try again tomorrow. Ernie in New Jersey, real quick. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A., how you doing? I appreciate what Colin Kaepernick is doing. The only knock I got on Kaepernick is, he opted out of his last year of his deal, leaving money on the table.
That's right. That was dumb.
And he could have potentially still be in the NFL.
Correct.
You think the 49ers would have waived him and he would have opted in?
No, they couldn't. I mean, listen, what he did was he negotiated the ability. He gave up over $14 million in guarantees for the sole express purpose of being able to become a free agent after the 2016 season. So he thought he was going to put himself on a free agent market and get some more money, and it didn't pan out that way. Appreciate the call, Ernie. Let's go to Matt in Connecticut real quick. You're live. Go, Matt, real quick.
Hey, Stephen A., I just wanted to say I'm glad you're back from your vacation, first and foremost.
Thank you.
And I just want to speak on this one point. I heard it today, and I don't usually get involved in these debates, but I got to wonder where this guy Ed gets off, attacking you for your, for your clear and concise difference between what you feel is hypocritical and what you feel Colin Kaepernick deserves as far as an opportunity in the NFL. You're pretty true to what you say, and I felt that you needed a little defending from a fan saying, who does this guy think he is, when you're very clear about, yes, if you want to make changes in life, then you should vote. And he made it very clear that he does not vote, and therefore he should have nothing to say about some changes. But you also made it very clear that his talent on the field is separate. We all have multiple opinions, and I'm sure that we're not all vindicated for all of the same opinions. It's going to be some differences.
Well, Matt, I appreciate you calling the show. Thank you so much for your call, man. Here's what I'm going to say. Ed is entitled to his opinion. And even though Ed and I disagree, I didn't find Ed to be disrespectful in any way towards me. He just emphatically disagreed with me. And that's entirely his right. I thought he misconstrued what I was saying. I thought he convoluted it a bit because I don't think that they're meshed in the same boat. You can be a hypocrite and still deserve your job. And that's what I'm saying about Colin Kaepernick. I thought he was hypocritical on the voting issue. But that doesn't mean he doesn't deserve a job in the NFL. He clearly deserves to be back in the NFL. Talk to y'all in 22 hours. Peace and love, everybody.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.